The SWAC edition of the Stadium Heads podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog's giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Yes, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. They got college football best ball. Might be the first place I've ever heard of that. So you're going to want to check that out. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm has the best AI picks and projections, and their football models are almost live. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
Hey, this is Pac-Man Jones. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Have something new coming like that. Okay, that's been done in any case. Education. More education. And more informed people. That's the way it is with everything. The young men, they ask me advice, and I always tell them, get as much knowledge as you can.
Stadium Heads, man.
The granddaddy of them all, the famed Rose Bowl, jammed with a color of over 100,000 fans for its 67th renewal.
And the weather here today at Notre Dame Stadium, in a word, it is cold, but it is football weather. The temperature 37 degrees, humidity 79%. Forecast cloudy for light rain later on this afternoon.
The average person doesn't know what a good stadium is. They might think they know what a good stadium is, but they think just, oh, our seats are nice and it's so comfortable. We have a 10,000-inch screen we can watch the replay on while we're watching the game, and we got a waiter coming over to take our orders, right? And there's 20 million bathrooms close to us. That's not what makes a good stadium. A good stadium is the look of it, the feel of it, the history of it, the soul of it. That's what makes a good stadium. That's what I mean when I said we're stadium heads. We are stadium heads.
They get to run around. Now those people, they shouldn't even be there. That doesn't even count. If you can't get out in the elements, you shouldn't even go to the game. That's the worst thing. Those cars, boxes up there, and dome stadiums and stuff. We don't need that, right?
Welcome to sunny El Paso, the 52nd Sun Bowl, and now
this ancient facility is one of the great settings in all of college football. Leland is now in its 87th year.
That's what we are, though. We are stadium heads. Welcome back to the Stadium Heads episode. This week we are conquering the SWAC, and I'm excited to talk about it because college football history, a lot of great history, if just football history, really in general. There's been so many great players that have come along through the SWAC, and I'm excited to talk about it. So the history, the stadiums, the culture, everything about it is fantastic, and excited to bring it to you. Folks, make sure you watch this show, though, if you can. Now, if you're listening to this and if you're driving along cross country or something, that's fine. The audio side is good, but I do believe the visual side is better than the audio side. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. And look, you're probably wondering just who the hell you're listening to, and that's fair. My name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I smoke and I drink, and I don't have stress, and I'm healthy.
I am healthy, I think. We'll see. Gotta go to the doctor soon, but I think I'm good. And I'm always healthy if I'm talking college football. Love the SWAC and excited to bring it, bring this episode, doing the deep dive like we do on all these episodes. And by the way, folks, if you're just tuning in, all those other episodes, for the most part, a lot of those are out. Big Sky was last week. All the FBS is out there as well. I know we want to get to the Ivy. We want to get to the Missouri Valley and, maybe the CAA or something, or the SoCon, but those are coming down the pipeline. I am joined by the God. All right. We're not worthy. All right. Yes. The most interesting man in college football. But look, his introduction, it's a little bit better when you hear it on ESPN.
I wanted to shout out Michael Barker. You can follow him on Twitter
CFB campus tour. This is his 84th college football game of the 2023 season. He said he's going to end at 90 college football games he's attended this year with the college football national title in Houston. So, again, he's out there with everybody.
He's like
wet
US
weather.
Postal Service. Rain, sleet, snow. It doesn't.
Rain, sleet, snow. Yeah, I give you Michael Barker, aka College Football Campus Tour. How are you, brother? And looking forward to another week of this.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the introduction. And we promised that we would do FCS stadiums, and we delivered last week by doing the Big Sky. And the natural second choice is the SWAC. In the off season, we did the poll on Twitter for the best FCS stadium, and a lot of the SWAC stadiums went really far in the tournament. Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium won the whole thing. I've traveled the country. I've been to a game at 78 of 129 FCS schools, and I can tell you, based on me being boots on the ground, that no doubt the SWAC has the most passionate fans in the country when it comes to FCS football, and not just great passion with the fans. You mentioned the historical players, but also great stadiums. And so I'm very excited, like you, to get into the specifics of the 12 stadiums in the SWAC.
Yeah. And, you know, folks, I feel like for the youngsters coming up, they might not know how many great players, you know what I mean? I feel like for a while there, they were just putting in like every year was a Hall of Famer. It seemed like, you know, whether it's Jackie Slater or, you know, Walter Payton or Doug Williams, you know, just a rich Aeneas Williams, you know what I mean? Like you can go on and on and on about how many great players came out of this conference, how many great coaches came out of this conference. And that's one thing I will say is, like, you know, depending on what side of the argument you're on with Deion at Jackson State, you know, he came there for a couple of years and then bounced to Colorado. Some are mad that he bounced. Some are you know, glad that he put the spotlight on the SWAC and Jackson State. But I think that was, to me, one of the cooler things. And I was looking forward to potentially, you know, that it seemed like for a minute there, it seemed like everyone was starting to hire old players. But what was your take in general about, like, Deion there? I kind of wish he would have stayed, because Jackson State was, I mean, it was just so, like, they were like must-watch TV. Now they're still must-watch to me, but for the lay fan, I feel like they might not be tuning in anymore.
Yeah, I think that there was a combination of things. First of all, we've talked about it before, where that FCS season they played in the spring. And so the whole any college football fan that wanted to watch football, all you had was FCS football, and you got 3 months of it, plus the playoffs. And for me, that's really when I got sparked and went to 29 games, followed the whole playoff bracket. And it coincided with Coach, you know, Deion, Coach Prime being there and elevating the talent level at Jackson State. But what it really did was give them a spotlight that probably should have already been on them already. Jackson State consistently led the FCS in attendance for a long time. And, you know, during that season, I got to go to the Magic City Classic in Birmingham at Legion Field. I got to go to the SWAC championship, was held at the Vet. I got to go to the national championship, obviously. So I got a lot of personal exposure, but it was a confluence of factors that all came together. And I think that he, you know, sometimes in football, whether you're a good coach in the G5 or the FCS, people will say they made an indelible mark. And I think that's what he did. And, you know, I think the program, Jackson State, is in good hands with TC Taylor, and they've got a lot of good, you know, recruits coming in, and that environment at the Vet is a crazy place to go. So I agree with you. I think that it was great timing, and he left a lot of good things in place. But I would say more importantly, he provided a spotlight for things that should have been in the forefront a long time ago.
Agreed. You know, very much so. I mean, I feel like, and it's funny, you talk to like the lay fan. I feel like, you know, wherever you're at, and I'm like, you know, oh, we got the Celebration Bowl this week, especially in December. Now it'll be different. You know, this year there's a bunch of different playoff games, I think, but Celebration Bowl has always been one that I've circled, you know, year after year. So, yeah, I feel like the maybe it was Deion that helped, you know, put a spotlight on that. Maybe it wasn't, but great football has been played in this level for a long time. So glad to see it get its shine.
And I just want to jump in because I went to the Celebration Bowl last year. I had a chance to go to Montana, North Dakota State, and the commissioner, the Big Sky, talking to me at Washington Grizzly Stadium. He said, this could be the biggest game in the history of the stadium. And I didn't want to go to the same place 2 times in a row, but FAMU, Florida A&M, they recently had joined the SWAC. It was the first time they, won the SWAC championship. They played Howard at the Atlanta Falcons Stadium, Mercedes-Benz down there in Atlanta. And they got 40,000 fans at that game plus. And, if you looked at the list of G5 bowl games that happened, it was higher than almost all of them. So it was a spectacle. I met the Commissioner McClellan, at the airport a couple of years ago, and he told me that I should go to the classics, and I really started to do that. But yeah, it's a unique thing with the way the FCS, the SWAC is the only conference that plays a conference championship. They'll send their champion to the Celebration Bowl to meet the MEAC champion. And then if there's a team who is ranked high enough to get a bid into the FCS playoffs, they'll still send a playoff team there. So there's no shortage of big games, neutral site big games, home played conference games. The SWAC has a lot to offer college football fans.
Yes, 100%. And look, we're going to talk all about that. We're going to go stadium by stadium within the SWAC. But before we do that, I would like to tell you that the SWAC Stadium Heads episode is brought to you by, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Yes. Look, the Sports Gambling Podcast just launched their 32 NFL team previews. And as a bonus, each team preview will include a code word. Yes. And submit the 32 code word phrase, and you could be the lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa future bet. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and the SGPN app, which is available for free in the App Store, Google Play Store. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, back. Shout out to the chat. Timothy Green in here saying this is the college experience. This is the Stadium Heads. There we go. Some SGPN love. And we got Robert Martin checking in from Manitoba. Shout out to that. And he's still pushing. He still wants the CFL Stadium Heads podcast. We are always interested. We love the CFL. But maybe down the road. Right now, it is time for the SWAC. Look, we start this off every episode by showing essentially Michael's travel schedule. Since I like to think, I used to think I've been to like a lot of college football stadiums, and then you meet someone like Michael and you realize, I'm just going to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, because I'd been to like what? I don't know, 40 games, probably 40 different stadiums. Michael on another level here. He's pretty much been to majority. So youtube.com/@thestadiumheads, you will see what we have right here is, and let me just do a quick switch to rep the conference here. But yeah, right here, there we go. So the last time you were at Alabama A&M was last season when you saw Arkansas Pine Bluff. 2021 season, you caught the Hornets of Alabama State hosting Southern. And you also caught you have not been to Alcorn State for a game. You've been there, but just not for a game. You also went to Bethune-Cookman down there in Daytona Beach, Florida, to catch Alabama A&M 2 years ago. You went to a Florida A&M game in Tallahassee, 2 years ago, as well as the Southern Jaguars came in there. You caught Grambling, Jackson State. What a fire game. 2 years ago. You went to Jackson State also 2 years ago as Alabama A&M came to town. Mississippi Valley State, the Delta Devils, you I think have visited, but you did not go to a game. So there's that. Prairie View. Yes. 2021 Arkansas Pine Bluff came to town and Michael Barker was there. Also Prairie View played at Southern in 2021. You went to that game. Last time you were at Texas Southern was a season ago as Alcorn State. The Braves came through to take on Texas Southern. And the last time you were at Arkansas Pine Bluff was 2 years ago as Alcorn State came through there. But you've been to every single one of these. It's just you haven't been to games at all of them, correct?
So I've been to games at 10 of the 12. And the only two that I have not been to games are Alcorn State and Mississippi Valley State. And looking for spots, I try to be greedy and see if there's a day that you can see both of them at the same time. Mississippi Valley State is within driving distance of Jackson State if you can get staggered start times. Alcorn is fairly close to ULM or Grambling. So 10 out of 12. And, we did the Big Sky last time, and I think I was 3 short, and now I'm 2 short. And these are mini goals that you want to work on. And hopefully I can get to Alcorn and Mississippi Valley State as soon as possible and do a little bucket list check off to have seen a game at every SWAC stadium.
Let's go. Look, before we dive into the first team there, I do want to tell you that the SWAC edition of the Stadium Heads is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog Fantasy just launched their Underdog Streaks. Hit your first 2 pick'em entries and then go streaking. Bring your green hat and everything. If you can go 11-0, you can win 1,000 times the amount of money you enter. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boosts too on all flexed entries. So what are you doing? Sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer of up to $250 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by OddsJam. Yes, OddsJam is your one-stop shop for beating the old sports books. Yes, OddsJam uses millions of data points across every U.S. and Canadian sports book to show you the best value plays for your money. Their line shopping tool shows you the best price for any bet you want to make across countless sports books. It's not only the big ones like DraftKings and FanDuel. It will show you Bet Online, Bravada, Cut, and much, much more. Their arbitrage tool will find opportunities where you can bet both sides of the same prop on different sports books to guarantee a positive ROI. So check out all of that. If you're interested in trying out OddsJams, you can get a free 7-day trial by going to oddsjam.com. using that promo code SGPN. But don't forget to enter that promo code SGPN because you can get 35% off your first month of your subscription as well with that. Hop on over to OddsJam. All right, we are back, and let's jump into this because the first one is Louis Cruz Stadium. First thing I think of with Alabama A&M is John Stallworth, Normal, Alabama there. 28 years old, seats 21,000. Tell me about your travels to Louis Cruz. I'll tell you from here, I dig this look right here. Kind of a Royal Classic look there.
Yeah, so it built in 1996, so not a brand new stadium, but not in the 70, 80-year-old range. For a long time, they played at Milton Franks Stadium on campus, and when they built Louis Cruz Stadium, it was the first time that they had on-campus football since 1971, so a huge deal. I've been down there a couple times. During the spring FCS season, Alabama A&M won the HBCU National Championship, and they did it playing all road games. And originally the plan was to play the SWAC championship at the team who had the best record, and that's the way it is now, and that's the way it was before. But because of COVID restrictions, they used the vet in Mississippi as the neutral site. I was there, and they beat UAPB and won the national championship. But I thought that was going to be the time I was going to be at Louis Cruz Stadium in spring 2021. Fast forward to last year, ESPNU always plays a few SWAC and MEAC games. And so this was early in the year. They played against Pine Bluff, and I got a chance to go there. And again, it's an impressive stadium. It's 21,000 seats. There's 14,000 seats on the home side, 7,000 on the road side. And from the front and the back, it's a very impressive look. The press box is nice. They got the field turf there. And, it timed out with some great sunset shots as well. And, it was a great game.
Yeah. I love this hill here with the A&M. What is that? Is that in like gravel or something? I'm not sure, but it looks cool. Looks very cool.
Yeah. It's like white rocks, painted rocks with the AAMU logo there. And, that's in one end zone. In the other end zone, they have a field house that's a football facility, and their bulldog statue that the players run out and run by when they take the field. So, things to look at all sides of the field.
I'm digging the press box.
Absolutely. And
it's got a.
that's what happens. I mean, I've said this before. The press box is the signature piece of a stadium, and this thing is really high. Like the home side and the road side, as I mentioned, is 14,000 versus 7,000, so it's double the capacity. You could see the road side is much smaller, but there's just this like presence of this huge press box in the stands, and you fill that thing up, and the record crowd they had was last year homecoming. They played Tuskegee. As we mentioned, the capacity is 21,000. They got 26,391. So just imagine over 5,000 people, standing room only, all over the place, filling it up. So it could be a big crowd there down at AAMU.
Yeah, and love the mountain. Look, we are very pro. If you listen to our other episodes, mixing the football stadium with the mountains, I can dig it, man. As we have some mountains in the backdrop there, but yeah, I really dig the look here. Now I'm curious about these little things in the right hand corner there. These little almost looks like houses or trailers or something, and it seems like this is the opposite of that, but so what's the story with that?
So those are little on-field suites, and we when we did the MAC, we saw them at Bowling Green. These are becoming more and more popular. But what they did there, I can't remember the name. I want to say something like Kennel Club, but they're leaning into the Bulldog name, and so they kind of look like dog houses. And you go in there, and you have that spot to yourself. You can show up early and put your drinks and your food there and serve it, and then you can come out. And it's a little private area. I had a credential, so I was able to navigate there. But this is what we like when we have stadiums they get creative. You can see the open end zones. There's definitely room for expansion if necessary. But until that day becomes, absolutely needed, you can do things like offer premium seating. And, in our, to channel Coach Madden in our intro, you don't want to be stuck up in the press box and in there, I call it jail. You want to be down on the field. And so those are some pretty desirable spots to be when you're at Louis Cruz Stadium.
Yeah. I mean, it's that press box, man. That press box fire. I've always dug their logo too. The logo is to me is instantly, I know who that is, whenever I see that logo. Yeah, it's a cool stadium, man. And how about that shot? I know this isn't your shot, but this is a shot that I found. Wow, look at that, man. The mountains, the sun going down, fire.
And we talk about it before. When we did the Conference USA episode, we were talking about the Jacksonville State fans are sitting on the ground during the renovation, and they don't care. Like Alabama just loves football. And so, we got the big hitters with Alabama, Auburn, the teams that we know, and then we got the G5s, but there's also Alabama State. There's, you could go to D2, and there's Delta State that's in Mississippi, but there's plenty of programs there to get your football fill. And, I'm grateful for these games that are put on a Thursday night. They actually have a game November 14th versus Grambling. The only other game that day is Tulsa. I want to say they're playing USF, and I've seen those two teams play twice already. The next night is North Carolina Central is playing a Friday night game in Durham, and I haven't been there. So right now, if the schedule holds, Thursday, November 14th, get to go down back to AAMU, and then the next night, a new stadium at North Carolina Central. But these are the kind of settings that you want for college football. We like the openness, we like the views, and there's a great photo that really encapsulates that.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Next we jump over to Alabama State, the Hornets, Montgomery, Alabama. So it's a rather new stadium, 12 years old, 26,500. And man, when you sent me these slides going through, kind of love this look, man. Big fan of the stadium. Tell me about your travels here.
So this, it ranks right up there, maybe Prairie View, but this is right up there with the nicest stadiums in the SWAC. As you mentioned, it's only 12 years old. When we did the Twitter poll, best FCS Invitational, this got ranked as a 4 seed, which was among, Sam Herder and FCS Nation Radio and the Blue Bloods and all respected people, and it ended up number 4. So there's a reason why it looks so great. What the first time I went there, I wasn't even planning to go. I didn't know about it, and I was driving on Interstate 85, and I looked off the freeway, and I saw that huge home side, and I said, "What is that place?" And I pulled over there and got into the stadium, and I was blown away. This is, again, it's one of the nicest stadiums in the SWAC. It's 26,500 seats, but it's expandable to 55,000. So my guess is you would just duplicate the home side on the road side. The bleachers in the one end zone are only one level. On the other end zone is just grass, so you can put seats there. But this is a huge accomplishment for Alabama State because they played at the Crampton Bowl forever, from 1923 to 2012. It's off campus. It's an older stadium. It's great for neutral site, multi-purpose. There's the bowl game, the Crampton Bowl. But this signified a huge step up in the prosperity of the program. And I went there for one game. It was the spring FCS 2021. It was in the beginning. There was a very small crowd. The photos were amazing, but it was a great opportunity to go see one of the best, if not the best, stadiums in the entire SWAC.
You can tell right now, folks, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN, that you can tell it's COVID seating, because if not, everyone would just go sit in the front. It's spread out through, but yeah, I mean, it's just got a really cool and classic look to it, but yet still new. I want to hammer it. This was a photo that I found online that I just thought was fire. Look at that. Look at that right there. And dude, your photos, look at that. Skyline's gorgeous. It's just a nice stadium, man. This is probably my favorite shot of it right here.
Yeah, and there was an overhead view that's on their website that we used in the poll, and people, they just look at it and it speaks for itself. And for me, we've talked about this on previous episodes where I'm trying to go back for my COVID experiences and replace them with authentic experiences. And this year, there's a lot of factors that are working in my favor to be there this year. So first of all, they always play on Thanksgiving. It's the Turkey Day Classic versus Tuskegee. And this year happens to be the 100th edition, which is incredible to try to go to. And the last 2 years on Thanksgiving, I went to the Egg Bowl. I went to Oxford, and then last year I went to Starkville. But we've talked about this before. They moved the Egg Bowl off of Thanksgiving, and now it's on Thursday. So given the fact that I've already been to Starkville and Oxford within the last year or two, given the fact that the Egg Bowl is on a Thursday or on a Friday instead of a Thursday, given the fact that this is the 100th edition of the Turkey Day Classic, the only other game going on that day is Memphis at Tulane. And 2 years ago, I went to the AAC Championship where Tulane beat UCF, rushed the field, and went to the Cotton Bowl and beat USC. Like, I don't feel like I can do any of those any better. So I don't like to say 100% certainty, but I would say high 90s. I'm going to be at that Turkey Day Classic, and it's a 3:00 kick. So it's, you're going to get daytime photos like this. And instead of a small COVID crowd on a weeknight in February, you're going to get a giant crowd for the 100th Turkey Day Classic. So as a photographer, as a football fan, I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity to getting the authentic experience here in Montgomery.
Hell yeah. And look at this shot, man. This is a beautiful stadium, man. I'm telling you, I really think it's underrated. And there's a shot that I found online here of it just rocking, at a random game here. But yeah, I really dig that stadium. Look, you're way up. This shit reminds me of like USA Arena when I was growing up going to a Bullets game, because you're really high up here, man. I mean, is this one of the ones when you go up the stairs this high, does it make you a little woozy?
Yeah, honestly, the stadium layout is just like James Madison. One side is high and one side is small, and JMU is expandable. There's a little bit of issues with existing buildings on campus that expansion may infringe on it, but there's no limitations here, and it's high, and it gives you the big time feel of a real college football stadium. So if it's expandable to 55,000, just imagine putting this on both sides. That's going to put them in the top 2 or 3 attendance wise when it comes to FCS football. Intimidating environment. They always have a hard-nosed team, and so I explored the stadium. I had a credential this day. I wasn't violating any COVID procedures, so And it's, it's a little bit better during the daytime because you can see more of Montgomery. It's not too far from downtown, and you literally have the highway going right behind the roadside too. So the Stadium Explorer in me had to go to the very top.
Love it, man. Yeah, it's just a beautiful stadium. Like, folks, once again, this is during COVID, so like you can see that you don't. It's just a little different, but this is a great stadium. This new scoreboard there, or relatively new scoreboard. Yeah, I think it's a really cool stadium. I dig like the bowl look where you have the grass here. You know what I mean? It just it reminds me of UC Davis where we talked last week.
Yeah.
In that regard.
And it's also, everything is really close to the field. And, this is not a stadium that's 60 years old where they filled in the track and they try to lower the field, or this was built as a football stadium on campus to be almost like the launching pad for the program. And I looked at the SWAC preseason predictions, and they're picked at the top of their division. And, that would be huge because they haven't hosted the SWAC championship. And as we talked about, if you win the SWAC, then you're going to be hosting. And so, you could possibly have the 100th Turkey Day Classic. And then the next week you could have the SWAC championship, both happening at these games. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah. Great stadium, great potential opportunity.
Yeah. Look, we're going to jump to the next team, but before we do that, I do want to tell you that the SWAC Stadium Heads episode is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're not checking out the AI picks and props from Rhythm, well, then you are missing out. They just predicted a bunch of winners for the British Open, and their football models are about to drop. You can even customize your own betting models easily using Rhythm's tools. So claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Have you been to Circa in Las Vegas? It's phenomenal. I just was there about 10 days ago. Stadium swim. If you like sports, it's just like, it's heaven, man. You got to get out to Vegas, check out Circa. Derek Stevens do an unbelievable job there. But look, Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Can you imagine the regret you'll feel if you win your office NFL Survivor pool? And maybe there's like 400 people in your office, or 700, because look, whatever, even if it's just 100, if you win your Survivor pool, chances are your picks were. It doesn't matter if you're in that pool or another one. It's not like you're going against the spread from a different book. If you survive, you survive. You would have survived anywhere. So I just couldn't imagine winning your office pool. I remember talking to someone last year who won their office pool and got like $300 in like a Sports Authority gift card or something, right? And you're just sitting there like, dude, but your picks were right the whole season. Your one survive, so you would have been a millionaire if you entered this at Circa. You don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season, the ultimate contest week. It's a great time to go out. You can hang with my pals, Stacking the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August 24th. If you're going to this also, use the promo code SGP15 to get 15% off your hotel room for that weekend. Also sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th. Obviously the season kicks on September 7th. So, but you can use a proxy to play from anywhere. So we even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So hop on over there and do that. Back on the Stadium Heads SWAC edition. Shout out to David Matola, who says we need to do this for college basketball. Yeah, I mean, look, if this has success, we love college hoops. Maybe, and Steinberg Wellness Center. Shout out to David Matola, obscure college basketball fan. I can dig that. Let's jump on over to Alcorn State, Casem Spinks Stadium, Lorman, Mississippi. 32 years old, seats 22,500. The first thing I think about at 32 years old then, because I'm like, wait, I was how old watching Steve McNair? And I know they're doing a documentary on him on Netflix, but I remember as a kid, when you're a kid, you're just watching whatever. And you tune in randomly on some day and you're just like, who the hell is this quarterback that's just killing it? And it was Steve McNair. It seemed to be right around where that's it when the stadium was built then, right? I think like 93, 94, 95. Cool look here. Like kind of, I know you went when it was the off season. So, I mean, but I found a photo of, in the middle of the season with a real game going on there. Once again, like the press box. One of the things I dig, and I know this is your shot from when you went did you go in spring? I take it.
It was just between visits. Unfortunately I haven't been to a game there, but this was a campus stop, and, there's soccer goals set up, but you got to navigate the stadium, which was very cool.
Well, it's got a cool look. I dig, like there's like a forest behind it too, but, or it looks like it. This is my shot that I like though, man. Look at this shot right here. I dig the sidelines going from purple to yellow. And then I like the end zones like that, man. It's just a cool look. It's got the hill like we just touched on with Alabama State on the opposing side that I dig as well. And a water tower. Shout out to don't sleep on the water tower world out there. Tell me about
this is sorry to cut you off, but this is a big accomplishment, just like Alabama State, just like, getting a new stadium on campus. You mentioned it was built in 1992. McNair hit around 94. And for us, you're talking about just like the average college football fan, you saw McNair on the field just absolutely dominating. He played a game at the Vet in Mississippi and threw for over, like, I want to say like 553 yards. He was in the Heisman voting third. I think he came in third. And we saw this amazing player do it, and he did it on this field. His brother, Fred McNair, longtime coach at Alcorn State. The 2018-2019, they host the SWAC championship. And that 2019 game versus Southern, I remember watching it. And not only was it a wild game, but the environment was incredible. And the stadium is named after two people. Is named after Jack Spinks, who was a fullback that played there in the 50s. His name was Jack the Ripper, and he was the first African-American player drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He won an NFL championship with the 1956 Giants, and he also played in the greatest game ever, which was the 1958 NFL championship, the first one on TV between the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants. So he has his name on there. And then Marino Casem, the Godfather, he's head coach and athletic director at Alcorn State for 20 years. He also was head coach at Southern after that. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame, inducted in 1999, won 7 SWAC championships, 4 HBCU national championships. So, whether it's from a coach perspective, whether it's from a, old time player perspective, whether it's a new name like Steve McNair, NFL, legend, there's been a lot of big time football played here and a lot of big names that have called Alcorn State campus their home over the years.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I know you weren't there for a game, but it has a cool look. And once again, if you need to look at that game look at that. That looks like a beautiful stadium, man. One of the things that,
go ahead.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say another thing like that I want to emphasize that maybe we didn't in the beginning of this. We love college football for several reasons. One element is the bands, and SWAC. The SWAC just has unbelievable bands. So, it's great to hear any band really. Like, I don't care what stadium you're at, but man, some of the SWAC bands are incredible. So another element of why you should go out and check a game in the SWAC.
And when you watch a game at, Jackson State or Southern, you're seeing the Human Jukebox or the Marching 100 or the Ocean of Soul and all these bands, you realize that this should be everywhere. That's the way you think, because we know the Stanford band and we know some other and there's some good bands, but just it's so intertwined there. It's such, I don't know. It's like a movie to me, and I get caught up in it every time. And, I went to last year, went to the Aggie Eagle Classic, the 95th down in North Carolina A&T, and that was lit. And so I agree with you, the environment. And that's why, for Alcorn State specifically, when you know that ESPN is giving out some of these weeknight games, you hold back a Saturday if you can, but then eventually you want to pull that trigger. 2021, I went to the Southern Homecoming down in Baton Rouge, and that was lit. And like I said, the Human Jukebox was really great. And you want it, so you do want the daytime games, but in the perfect world, you're going to go to every school on a Saturday on a homecoming and get the whole experience. So hopefully I can get down there for a prime time or big time game, preferably a homecoming game at Alcorn here pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool stadium, man. It really is. Next up, we have the Golden Lions of Arkansas Pine Bluff. First off, that logo is fire. That logo, man. Simmons Bank Field. What's that?
Can you see UAPB and the hair? Can you see that?
Oh shit! I didn't even. This is like one of those ones you stare at the doctor's office. Yeah, I see it now.
So the U and the A and the P, it's. I mean, it's creative. It's cool, and that thing on the side of a helmet is badass.
Great logo. They have some of the best logos. I mean, I think Alabama State's fire. I think Alabama A&M's fire. But I'm saying I'll get to a couple others. But this one is a damn good logo. Simmons Bank Field, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, 24 years old, seats 16,000. Tell me about your travels here to catch the Golden Lions.
So I've been on campus a couple times. Went to a fall 2021 Thursday night game, and there was 3 games in a row. It was Bethune-Cookman, then it was Prairie View, and then it was UAPB Thursday night. So it was cool to get to all 3. But this was a 2021 game against Alcorn State. Alcorn State had Felix Harper, who was a great quarterback, and it was a crazy up and down game that was a lot of fun. But I was blown away by the stadium. This is built in 2000, so another not an oldie, but fairly recent. There's something about, you're talking about the logo. There's something about the yellow and black that pops. It gives a good feel. And, this stadium has been upgraded over the years, even though it's a recent stadium. There was like a $2.5 million improvement a couple of years ago, holds 16,000. And another big accomplishment, because they were playing at Mumford Stadium before this. That's now their soccer venue. And they got a big time, nice on-campus stadium with the field turf and a great setting for college football down there in Pine Bluff.
Yeah, look at that right there. Gorgeous. And
man. They used to play neutral site games at War Memorial Stadium also, which, Arkansas did. They've actually played Arkansas there as an opponent. But this is, when you get off the plane in Little Rock, you got Central Arkansas is not too far. You got UAPB's not too far. Central Arkansas is known for the stripes, the blue and the purple and gray turf. You got this nice field. Arkansas is a little bit more northwest. So there's an underrated football state, definitely Arkansas.
Definitely. It's just, I dig their work here. It just, I like the whole uniform too. Like everything about it is cool.
And that year, I got to see, as we mentioned, the spring season and the fall season. And so UAPB, they played in the SWAC championship in the spring. That was the game at the Vet against AAMU. And then I got to see them in the fall on campus. So it was really cool to be able to, see a team come up, because most people did not pick Pine Bluff to be in the SWAC championship. The spring was a little bit different. But they've been a good team for, spots in the SWAC. And this game in particular, they battled Alcorn, who coming into the season was a very highly rated team. And, I know they have another Thursday night game this year, and I might be able to go to that. But any chance that you get to go to these good environments in a newer stadium, it has the grass in the end zone, just like, a couple of the other stadiums we looked at. But it also has some bleachers there too. So there's room for people on the berm, people on the bleachers. But I agree with you. I think this is one of in the upper half of the SWAC when it comes to stadiums.
Yeah. Folks, shout out to you watching this. I see 800 people watching this. If you can hit that like and subscribe button, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN or wherever podcasts can be heard, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, please hop on over and let us know your thoughts. Next up, we go to Daytona Beach, Florida. Bethune-Cookman, Daytona Stadium, 36 years old, seats 10,000. First off, love municipal stadium sign. All right. This makes me think of the Cleveland Browns or the old school Kansas City Chiefs. Just love that. All right. How many times have you been here first off? And tell me about your travels to check out Bethune.
So I've been to the stadium twice. I've been there. These photos that are nice weather are from a visit. And then the game I went to was probably the rainiest game I've ever been to in my life. And so first of all, just a little bit of background on Daytona Stadium. So it's not on campus. It's off campus. It's about 7 miles from campus. They were playing the former home Welch Memorial Stadium. And then the stadium got funded by Daytona Beach, the city who owns the stadium, and also a donation from Daytona Motor Speedway, which is about 3 miles away. And so it's been multi-purpose. It's held, high school games and, but they play, like I said, 7 miles away. And so this photo, you can't really, that's to go back to the cloud photo. There was these ominous cloud photos that showed up and it rained like crazy. The start of the game was delayed for 45 minutes, an hour. It finally broke. And I didn't get access to the field. And this was almost the only photo that I could get. I couldn't navigate. We weren't able to go back and forth on the sides, but, Bethune-Cookman recently joined the SWAC along with Florida A&M. So there's going to be more opportunities, hopefully, to go back for another game that's, not so rain drenched where you can actually navigate around the stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those clouds are wild, man.
And I sent you this photo on the left for a particular story. Okay. So,
Cause I was wondering, but I was like, it looks like Tulane's old logo, by the way.
It is. Well, they stole it. I don't know if you've seen those maps, that have been going out over Twitter where they got the high school logos all over and you can just see NFL and college ones all over the place. So, being a traveler and being cheap, I pulled up to Daytona Stadium and parking was $20. And right across the street, there's Father Lopez Catholic High School. And I said, why don't I just park over there? So I park over there and come to the stadium, save my $20. Then I get to the stadium. There's a lightning delay and everything. This game goes till like 11:45 and it finally gets out and I'm walking across and, I'm the smartest guy in the stadium and still until I get to the Father Lopez parking lot and it's chained up and there's a lock on the gate and I walk and there's another car and there's a few people in it and they can't get out. And I have a flight at 6 a.m. and it's 11:45 at night on a Thursday and I'm trapped. And so I talked to the kid in the other car and they're like, what are we going to do? And I said, okay, let's go talk to the cops doing the parking lot traffic across the street. So I go up to him, hey officer, sorry to bother you, but me and this guy were trapped in the parking lot. Do you think you could help us out? And he just goes, we don't own that property. We have no control over what they do. And so I'm starting to panic. I forget where I had to be, but I had to be at a flight to another game. I start telling him my sob story and a officer inside of the vehicle starts typing something and then starts saying numbers to me. And he's telling me a phone number. And he says, dial this number. It's the principal of the school. You didn't get this number from me. And I said, okay. So I dialed the number and I called. It's 11:45 at night on a Thursday. And a woman answers the phone, hello, all tired. And I said, hi, sorry to bother you. You don't know me, but me and a couple other people are trapped in the school. is there any way we can have someone help us out? And the first thing she said is, where'd you get this phone number? And I said, oh, I did a Google search and I found it. And she pauses for a minute and she goes, I'll be right there. And she came in about 15 or 20 minutes and we're profusely apologizing and thanking. And she said, you know, out of all the phone calls you could get at midnight, this is probably the best one that you can get. Hopefully you guys won't be doing this again. And I was like, no, ma'am, I'm sorry. I apologize. I won't do it again.
Man.
And so I got out of there. So I don't know, you know, if this gets back to her, that's the deception that we did. But, you know, me trying to save $20 literally almost got me locked. I mean, we were contemplating, are we going to ram this gate with the car? And I had a rental car and I'm telling you're going to do it because, you know, so anyways, there's my Father Lopez Catholic High School trapped in the parking lot.
Well, I don't get bring the income.
I mean, bold move to call her house. I mean, I guess you have to do what you got to do, but like, man, can you imagine you're taking this phone call? Why? Yeah, because I went to the Bethune-Cookman game across the street. You didn't say that, right?
No. No, I don't remember. I mean, once we got her there, we could level with her because the cops kind of stayed and they were watching to see what was going on. And, you know, it was a success story. But, you know, last year went to 90 games. And, you know, if I had a one short, 89 sounds a lot worse than 90. This was, you know, not last year. But you always want to make it. And you don't want, you know, if you miss something, you want it. You know, I missed North Dakota State in the semifinals because I literally got snowed in and the freeway was closed. You can't overcome that. But to do something stupid like try to save $20 and park in across the street, that would have been a horrible thing. So anyways, there's my Bethune-Cookman Daytona story.
Shout out to Father Lopez. Next up,
I do want to add one more thing. So
sure.
We talked about how Daytona Stadium is not on campus recently. So Reggie Theus, you know him, former basketball player. He's the
UNLV.
AD. Yeah, he's the AD at Bethune-Cookman, and they just opened a brand new practice field on campus. And so first time in a long time, and actually Charles Barkley donated $1 million towards the project. And, you know, they don't have an on-campus stadium yet. You know, we talk about progression and things. Obviously, money and land is always going to be a hurdle to overcome, but baby steps. And so, you know, Daytona is there. Bethune is playing at Daytona Stadium, 7 miles away. You go online right now. There's a couple news stories from within the last 12 months where players are talking about how nice it is to be able to practice on campus. They don't have to speed between meals and try to make it to the stadium and all that. So Charles Barkley, Reggie Theus, and some generous donors helped get a practice field on campus at Bethune-Cookman for the first time. And hopefully it propels them to bigger things. And maybe someday they'll get their own on-campus stadium there at Bethune.
That would be fantastic. I'm rooting for Reggie Theus and Bethune. If you subscribe to the College Basketball Experience podcast, we you know, they were a darling of ours last season. So yeah, that's a great story, man. And I hope they get it on stamp. Like I like them having, you know, like having this stadium there for some neutral site stuff, but like every college should have an on-campus stadium. So we would love that to come to fruition. Moving along. Can we just talk about one of my biggest complaints with college athletics is no one's original as far as their mascots for the most part. I mean, it's better than pro, but you know, we had a big debate about this in the office, you know, not that long ago about, I was like, why is everybody the same old, you know? And then, so when I see Florida A&M and building these graphics, they have like 6 fire ass logos, man. And all of them are great. It makes me like, I'm a fan. All right. I'm a fan of this university just because the logos, the uniforms, Florida A&M, Bragg Memorial Stadium, Tallahassee, Florida, 67 years old. I think they might be the only snake in Division I, which is crazy.
So yeah, you know, well, the Alabama State is the Hornets. You know, Richmond, we got the Spiders. You know, we like these original things. And, you know, me and you have talked off air about Jerry Quickle helmet collector, over 550 college football helmets. The other day, somebody that I follow from FAM posted a photo of the white helmet with the logo, and he replied and he said, "I think that's the best helmet I've ever seen." So there's just something special about that, the Rattler head, and with the fangs sticking out, and the orange and the green, and the color combinations they have. So I'm totally on the same page as you.
Dude, it was hard for me to decide which logo to use because I liked all of them. I was like, damn. And so I settled with this one, but look, they do college football right, man. Florida A&M Bragg Memorial Stadium, Tallahassee, Florida, 67 years old, seats 25,500. And I'll be honest, I haven't been to a stadium or this stadium. I haven't been to a game here. And you sent me this and I go, man, I want to go. Love the color schemes. Love that. Look, they even got the snake on the stadium right there. Obviously dig that they lean into their history. I see Greg Coleman, the old Vikings punter, and a bunch of other Florida A&M greats here.
You got Bullet Bob Hayes. You got Hall of Famer Ken Riley. You got Coach Jake Gaither. I mean, there's a ton of history down there.
And then, dude, I dig this stadium, man. And look, maybe it's. I remember watching a game a few years ago where like 40 guys got disqualified before they took a flight to Chapel Hill to play at Keenan Memorial.
I remember that.
And man, all of us are just like, man, I guess you got to lay the points with UNC because I mean they're starting like a fullback at guard. You know what I mean? Like they were doing a bunch of crazy shit like that. And dude, I watched them, man. I've never been a bigger fan of a team, man. I just they played their heart out. They kept it close, man. With 30 or 40 guys out, man, it was a great showcasing, I thought, for the university. And I know Willie Simmons is now at Duke, the former Clemson quarterback that was the head coach there. But I was a big fan of him, and I'm going to continue to be a fan of him at Duke. But I love this stadium, dude. I think this is between the logo and midfield. It's just perfect to me. This is a very niche but awesome thing they have going. Tell me about your travels here.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I remember there was a clerical error that cost all those players their eligibility, and they went and did a great showing at North Carolina. But when you travel places and you're on Twitter and people have seen that you haven't been somewhere, they go, well, you haven't done anything until you go here. And so when Florida A&M joined the SWAC and people on social media had seen that I've been to several SWAC stadiums, well, if you haven't been to FAMU, if you haven't been to Bragg, then you haven't been anywhere. So 2022, I made a point to go to the Southern game, which is a big time opponent, big time crowd. They had just upgraded the stadium that offseason and put that press box in. And normally I'm trying to get 2 games on a Saturday always, but this is one I carved out. It was, I want to say like a 6:00 local start. And I chose this one game for the day, and I could not have been happier. Great crowd. Marching 100 band is, they get hired all over the world to perform. That's how great they are. And the stadium has really come a long way. It started out with 10,500 seats. It's up to 25,500. Believe it or not, the record is 33,954 in 1996 for homecoming versus Morgan State. And, it's not just a great stadium. We should mention that recently the field got named after Ken Riley, Hall of Fame defensive back for the Cincinnati Bengals, who got elected after he died, which we don't like. This is a great home field advantage. They've won 20 straight home games here. They haven't lost at home since 2018. And last year they dethroned Jackson State. They hosted the SWAC championship. They beat Prairie View. And as I mentioned in the beginning, they went to the Celebration Bowl and they beat Howard and won the HBCU national championship. So the highest of 7 hills, that's what they call it, down in Tallahassee. And it's a great stadium. It's a great vibe, and highly recommend people going there and checking it out for themselves.
Look at this, man. Not only is this college football, this is SWAC college football right here. Look at this. This is fantastic. You got the director up there on the ladder. Man, it's just, I gotta go. You sent me these photos. I was looking and I was like, damn, I think I gotta get down there for a game because They just do it right. Everything about it is perfect to me.
I did a countdown in 2022 of my top photos of the year, and number 2 was South Dakota State, the snow game, the coldest game in South Dakota State history. It looked like Arctic. And then I put the Florida A&M one, number 1, because it was just a sunset photo and it looked great. And, packed crowd, and -6 degrees, you're not going to get a packed crowd. And so people, when I put South Dakota State number 2, they were thinking, who could be number 1? And then they saw Bragg and they understood why I did it. So yeah, definitely highly recommend a trip down to Tallahassee for college football fans.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. Next up, Grambling, Eddie Robinson Memorial Stadium, Grambling, Louisiana. 41 years old, seats just shy under 20,000, 19,600. Eddie Robinson, obviously legendary college football coach, one of the best coaches ever. And this logo, the Packers stole. But dude, there's no way Grambling can ever do anything wrong in my mind. All right. Maybe it's because I grew up, Doug Williams as my quarterback, won a Super Bowl. And I just think Grambling is perfect. Like how many times I've watched the Southern Grambling game, probably as much as I've been, at least since like cable TV came out. And they are, to me, one of the styles of college football. Like, how Bama has a style. A lot of conferences, a lot of teams, there's just something that stands out about certain teams. There's like, and I'd only say there's like 10 or 15 of them really in colleges, in college sports. Grambling is one of them, man. Like that logo just stands out to me. And dude, this stadium's awesome, by the way. It's like in the middle of all these hills. YouTube.com/@thestadiumheads, SGPN. Tell me about your travels here.
So I echo what you're saying, first of all. Second of all, Coach Robinson's era is probably never going to get duplicated. So many Hall of Fame players, legends, has his own stadium named after him. You talked about the design of the stadium, or it's called the Hole, which is, if you're looking to build a stadium, the easiest way to do it, dig a hole, put some stands on the sides, and there you go. But this place, it's been around since 1983. Their all-time record there is 102, 37-1. So they've been very dominant there. As we mentioned, tons of great players. They recently named the field Harris Williams Field, which is named after James Shaq Harris, which was a quarterback who played for the Rams. He was in the 1975 NFC Championship, made the Pro Bowl that year. And then, of course, Doug Williams, you mentioned, Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 21. Both 70s, both there. But, Coach Robinson coached there for almost something like 70 years. He's coached his own kid as a quarterback. And so, for me, I went to one game there in the spring, and it was the second game that Deion Sanders ever coached for them. And they, Grambling had it, and they fumbled on the one, and Jackson State survived. They did it. But even with the small COVID crowd, you could see the dynamic there. And when you're driving in northeast Louisiana, you got ULM, Grambling, and La Tech are all within like an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes of each other. So from a stacking games perspective, there's always opportunity to do that. But I agree with you. Grambling is a brand. They're one of the few teams to win the Celebration Bowl from the SWAC. It's mostly been MEAC dominated. And this is one that I have on my radar for replacing that COVID game experience. And, whether it's on its own on a Saturday or possibly 2-for-1 in it with ULM, I definitely want to get back there for, the full authentic experience.
And James Harris, I think he was the second black quarterback to ever start an NFL game. And, and Doug Williams, obviously not that far behind, because it was just, that was so late to the curve. That's why college football, I thought, was so much better. In another aspect of it was like, I always felt like they were ahead of the curve on that shit. but yeah, I mean, Harris is I'm pretty sure he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not. Do you know that to be for sure?
I don't think he's in the NFL Hall of Fame. I'm not sure, but he could be in the Black College Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Could be in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, but I don't know for certain.
Yeah. And I mean, the guy was a very good quarterback for, I think he was with the Bills originally, and then the Rams after that when he had his most success. But yeah, then you have,
Charlie Joyner, Willie Davis, Ernie Ladd, in our era, Albert Lewis. I mean, you could go on and on.
Jake Reed. I think Jake Reed is from the former Vikings wide. I think went to Grambling.
Well,
I could be wrong.
If you go forward one or two photos I kind of saw you flash it is on campus. There on the left, that's a plaque from inside the Eddie Robinson Museum. And I got to tell you that museum on the Grambling campus is the nicest museum that I've seen ever dedicated to a coach. And, we could talk about P4 or FB or G5 or anything like that. And, you can visit for free. Donations are appreciated. And, there's a spot where it's like his old office. And then there's a spot where it's like a locker room. And they have all these trophies, all these pictures. There's the locker room right there that's set up. And, they'll have like the Eddie Robinson show, the TV show they used to do where he, would talk about the previous game and preview the next game. That's running all the time. And you just see the accomplishments. And there's a corner where they have, it's like the NFL corner where they have the jerseys of all the players. And it just is, for people, they'll look at the all-time college football list for, victories. They'll look at Bobby Bowden, they'll look at Joe Paterno, and you see Eddie Robinson up there for what he did and the way that they honor him. I mean, you could not, and there's the wall that I'm talking about right there. This is when we talk about like must college football bucket stadium things you need to do when you're in the area. Hopefully you're going to a Grambling game, but it may not be open on weekends. I know it's on the weekend. Carve out some time to spend about a half hour in this museum, and you're going to see one of the most legendary figures in college football history being honored in an incredible way. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I got to get there. This is bucket list. This is bucket list stuff. And yeah, I mean, the guy was a phenomenal coach, and it's a problem that we still have this problem in college football where we need more, like, in my opinion, like it's ridiculous. The number of black head coaches in college football, you know what I mean? There should be way more. And hopefully, I know it's improving, but we got a lot of work to do to get there should be way fucking more. Eddie Robinson, coaching legend, dude. But some of these other shots, to go back to the stadium, I dig the stadium, man, a lot.
What do we say? It has aura. There's just something about it. Like, when you think of Hull, what do you think? Like, we're trapped here, and we're playing a legit team that is going to make it hard on us for 60 minutes. So, when there's a big crowd, the tops of these hills are filled up a lot more. On the roadside, there's a spot for food concessions out there. And so, the benefit of being at a stadium when it's empty is you get to explore and see the whole thing, but it just makes your mind wander. So you want everything, but I agree with you. It's a very unique stadium. It's a cool location. And, when Grambling is really good, this is a difficult business trip for teams to come travel here.
They just do it right, dude. Their uniforms are awesome. I would argue that they are a top 20 uniform, dude. Like they just do it right. The stadium looks awesome. Logo looks awesome. There's nothing bad about that what they do, in my opinion.
Hey, a little small underappreciated feature too. Maybe not. I don't know. But if you go to a photo where it's showing the opposite bleachers and you see the tiger stripes on the seats, that's right there. That first one, you see those tiger stripes right under the press box there.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of stadiums like BYU will have the letters, and Utah State has an A for the Aggies. But that is like, talk about branding right there. We're putting the tiger stripes right there, and there's not too many stadiums that can mess. It's fire, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do college football right, man. I have nothing bad to say about Grambling. You know what I mean? Like they're the epitome of like I said, like, you know, a lot of people use that G. Not only the Packers, you got Georgia. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Part of me, Patty C always asks me this question. He's like, Georgia's or Grambling's uniforms? Whose are better? I'm like, both are fire. Yeah. But I sometimes I tend to think Grambling. Man, they just do it right. And by the way, shout out to the water tower. We got a water tower in this one. Yeah, it's a really good stadium. I dig it. And I got to get to this, museum there. Really cool stuff. Next up, we head to another fire logo. And this was another one where like you had a few different logos to choose from. Jackson State, Mississippi, Veterans Stadium, the vet, they call it, and a Veterans Memorial Stadium, I believe. Jackson, Mississippi, 74 years old, seats 60,500. Once again, never been to a game here. And that's a problem because you look at the photos of this place, and I knew this from watching a couple games too, but like, man, look at this, man. Look at this. College football done right, man. Tell me about your travels.
So I put the vet in my top 3 or 4 FCS stadiums, you know, for a lot of reasons. First of all, we don't have big capacity stadiums like this in the FCS. You know, this place was the site of a lot of big games because the other schools nearby, we're talking about Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Southern Miss, their stadium wasn't as big. So the Egg Bowl was played here for, I want to say like 20 years it was played here. Archie Manning played some of his big Ole Miss games. And so not only has this been a big stadium for Jackson State in themselves, but it's been used by every school in Mississippi. And, you know, this thing started out with only 21,000 seats, built in 1950. And the record was for Jackson State was 62,512 in 1996, first Alcorn State. And I believe that was the Steve McNair game playing in that. You know, they've led the FCS in attendance for several years. The Walter Payton set a college football record in 1972. They beat Lane College. He scored 6 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions, and he scored 46 points in one college football game. And so, you know, you know, kind of going back to what you mentioned in the intro as far as Coach Prime and what he did, this crowd has existed like this forever. It was, you know, he made it into a cool vibe and everything like that, but this has been this way for a long time. And I think that for me, like when I'm ranking my top couple FCS stadiums, I got Montana, Washington Grizzly, I got Harvard Stadium, and I got the Vet, and I've got the Kibbe Dome. Those are probably the top 4, probably top 5, right around there. But there is, you know, and also earlier said Alabama State probably has the nicest stadium. They were heads up in that FCS poll, and you know, people were wanting me to clarify what does best stadium mean, and I would say, you tell me what you think, and they would say it. And I said, there's your answer. So best doesn't mean it has to have the nicest. Even your intro in the intro, 10,000 bathrooms and all that. Best is what you think. And when you walk into the Vet, I think it's the best.
Yeah. I mean, I got to get there, man. So many great players have played there. You know, you mentioned Walter Payton or Jackie Slater. It's just, man. And when you see the photos, it's just like, damn, this place looks great.
And I will
even
tell you
that looks amazing.
Yeah,
What's
no,
that?
the outside is cool. And for me, okay, so people know me as the FCS traveler, right? I have been to 3 games at the Vet. One was in the spring. They played Alabama A&M. That was a COVID crowd. This game right here that you're showing the photo. Then there was the SWAC championship, which we mentioned earlier, was played at a neutral site, which was Alabama A&M and Pine Bluff. And then there was a game in fall of 2021. It was on a Sunday, and Mississippi Valley State played Southern here rather than on campus at Rice Totton Stadium to get a bigger crowd. But none of those were sold out Jackson State, you know, prime time, big time football. And so it's almost like I mean, I don't want to exaggerate. It's almost like malpractice that I haven't been here for a Giant game. And so I am making this a high priority for this fall, not just because I want to get I want to duplicate this photo with the sold out crowd. The, people on social media that I've interacted with from Jackson State, they're awesome. Jackson State football account follows me. I've got DMs from people that work from the school inviting me down there. So I feel like all those things, my love of this stadium just for what it is, the incredible fan base that they have there, and the fact that, I got great photos at Montana. I got great photos at Montana State. I got great photos at all these other places. But this is the one that leads the country in attendance consistently. I have to get there, and it is an extremely high priority for me to do that this season.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks incredible, man. It's a great stadium, and I haven't even been there, but just from the look, it's a great stadium. I got to get there.
It's classic. It's classic. That's what it is. Like, if we wanted to talk about what being a stadium has and explaining something, it's hard to just pinpoint it, but this is a classic stadium. It feels classic in every way. They've improved it a lot. They're still sticking with that natural grass. I love it.
Perfect.
I've been there empty. I've been the only person in the stadium, and it's a great place. So I hope you can get down there. Maybe we can go down there sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Love they have a Walter Payton Memorial there. That's I mean, for my money, the greatest running back ever. I know some people will say Barry or Jim Brown or something. My dad says Jim Brown, but for my money, it's Walter Payton. Great logos, both of them. The one I did on the intro, and then this. Yeah, I really appreciate their brand. All right, look, there's the championship game you went to. Folks, before we get to the next team, we're going to conclude side A. If you're on YouTube, just stay put as we jump into the B side of it from the audio side. But yeah, if you're listening to this, make sure you check out the B side where we go through the rest of the SWAC teams on the stadium heads. All right, we are back on Stadium Heads and just got done breaking down Jackson State and the vet down there in Jackson, Mississippi, one of the more beautiful stadiums in all the land. Now we jump over. And by the way, what is this here? Explain to me this one. I was sitting there and my assumption was maybe there was a hurricane or something and they played here.
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned, that Mississippi Valley State played Southern here on a Sunday in fall 2021. And so what they did was they just painted a red Delta Devils end zone on top of the Tigers one. It didn't hold all the way, so you can see the Tigers there. But yeah, this was, for a college football traveler, if you say, hey, you can go to New Orleans Saints Superdome and watch the Saints and the Texans, or you can go to the vet on a Sunday and watch Mississippi Valley State versus Southern. I mean, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to go. So it was interesting to go there and see neutral site. And it's the same thing we talked about. Ole Miss and all those teams back in the day, they would play here because it's much bigger. Rice Totton Stadium, who we're going to talk about next, holds 10,000. And if they feel like they're going to get a bigger crowd for a game, then, it makes sense to try to play it at the vet, which is less than 2 hours away from Mississippi Valley State campus.
Yeah. And let's talk about that because first off, okay. As a kid, I still am, but obviously he's not playing the game anymore. Jerry Rice is one of my favorite players of all time. I read a book about him as a kid. I know his dad was a bricklayer and that's how he started catching bricks. He said in the off season, his dad would throw him down from, second story of his, of the houses he was working on. And he'd have to catch the bricks and put them in a wheelbarrow. Jerry Rice played at Mississippi Valley State, folks, the greatest receiver ever for my money. And, this logo and the name Delta Devils, fucking phenomenal, man. Like, we just talked about this 15 side A. The there's not a lot of original logos in all of college football. To me, like I mean, there's more original than other sports, or the pros, but the Delta Devils with this logo, get the fuck out of here. They're like my favorite team, dude. And you throw Jerry Rice on top of that. Rice Totton Stadium. I'm assuming that's named after Jerry Rice. I didn't do my homework on that. Yeah. Tell me about your travels here.
So first, I want to echo what you said about Jerry Rice. So, you grew up a Redskins fan. I grew up a Niners fan. And the two starting wide receivers for the Niners when I was growing up was Jerry Rice from Mississippi Valley State and John Taylor from Delaware State. So 2 HBCUs. So, I got a little bit more introduced to it just because that was my favorite player. And John Taylor, I mean, game-winning catch in Super Bowl 23, one of the best wide receiver duos in NFL history. So, but you're right. It's named after Jerry Rice and Willie Totton, who was the quarterback, wide receiver, satellite and world. That was their nickname in the early 1980s. And, Coach Totton, Willie Totton, he coached at a stadium that was named after him when he was coach of Mississippi Valley State from 2002 to 2009, which is pretty rare. So, I haven't been here for a game. I visited twice. Once was just a campus visit. The other time, I inadvertently showed up during graduation. And, I looked fairly normal walking around taking photos because that's what people do at graduation. But I didn't know, it was not planned, but it allowed me to get access to the stadium. So I was grateful for that.
Dude, that's hilarious. But this scoreboard should never go down. This scoreboard, it looks like you're watching like, a movie from like 100 years ago. And the Delta Devil in the top right, please don't ever touch this scoreboard. Keep this there forever.
It's funny at the vet, they have an old scoreboard on the opposite side too. And it's a little bit, it doesn't have a logo on it. But I swear I've said to myself, I'm like, if they ever take that down, I want to try to put it in my backyard or something.
Yeah, so, dude.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't want them to take it down, but if you're going to take it down, I need this in my house. All right.
Yeah, I put it up on auction. I will give you my life savings for it. I agree.
Even the chat's talking about how great the scoreboard is, man. And the name Delta Devils, like, God, I just want them to be awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to dominate the sport. This is the graduation you were at, I take it.
I was not dressed appropriately. Let's just say that I was probably, like an hour removed from sleeping in my car, and I saw all this traffic going to the stadium. I was like, man, is there some kind, cause sometimes there's like a flag football game or a kid little game going on. And it was a legit graduation ceremony. So, I tried not to be disrespectful or anything like that, but I wanted to get the photos for sure.
Yeah. I mean, dude, the stadiums.
So cool. I will tell you, so I mentioned earlier, I met the SWAC Commissioner McClelland at the Houston airport in 2021, talked to him about, me traveling and stuff. And he told me about improvements that were going to be done at Rice Totton. And those are finally underway. Right after the spring football game, they started ripping up the grass. They're going to put new field turf in there, which is a big deal because when we looked at the Big Sky last week, you saw the difference between, the Montanas and the Montana State. And then you went down to, some of the other schools like Northern Colorado that didn't have the facilities that are on par. So I thought it was really cool of the commissioner to emphasize some of the trying to do some improvements on campus, and they're actually happening. And, there was a time, we talk about this all the time, where can you imagine these guys playing on this field at this time? Well, 1984, this was a place where Jerry Rice and Willie Totton got scouted like crazy, and you want to see them invest in it. And so they're doing it, 10,000 seat capacity. And I'm hoping that I can get an opportunity to go here for a game. Alcorn and Mississippi Valley State are the only two I haven't been for a game. And so we want to take a chance, and maybe it's good to wait for a brand new field. Maybe, it was inadvertently a smart move to wait for the stadium to improve this fall.
Yeah. I love this shot right here too, man. Just a cool classic look. And it's funny. I was a guest at the University of Colorado a while back, and Ashley Ambrose was coaching for the Buffs. He is a former NFL corner for a while, but a grad from Mississippi Valley State as well. Man, I love the history. Like, just to think of the people that have played on that field, and that scoreboard is incredible.
On the opposite side of the scoreboard, and I don't think it's in any of these pictures, but they have a football facility in the end zone. It's named the Archie Cooley Devil's Den, who was the coach there. And they have inside of it the Ashley Ambrose Lounge. So a good way to honor, not just, one of the most offensive-minded, gifted offensive-minded coaches there's been in Coach Cooley, but a former player like, Ashley Ambrose.
Yeah, Ambrose. I don't think he's coaching right now, but he was for a while there at a few different stops at major schools, but also played in the NFL for about 12, 13 years. So very good corner. Was on that Colts team that almost went to the Super Bowl with Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, I dig the stadium. Next up, Prairie View A&M, Panther Stadium, Prairie View, Texas, 8 years old. Seats 15,000 once again. And look, I've had the opportunity and the honor to interview Bubba McDowell a couple years back. That was great. He's currently the head coach of Prairie View. First off, the logo. Okay. And once again, this is another where I feel like you could decide with like 3 or 4 different logos, but man, I dig it. Prairie View A&M University, this stadium, you sent me these. Look, I interviewed Bubba McDowell without knowing, and I guess I'd kind of caught some games on TV, but I guess, man, when you really see the photos, from this point of view, because TV, you're always looking down at the stadium. You know what I mean? Like down on the field. This is a beautiful stadium, man.
It is, and it's built in 2016, so very new. It's on the site of their former stadium, which was Blackshear Field. So they just rebuilt this, and $61 million to build. It currently holds 15,000, but it's expandable to 30,000. And, they had to play in 2015 at a high school stadium to have this happen. But, when you talk about nicest stadiums in the SWAC, just from quality, modern stadium, in my opinion, it's Alabama State and it's Prairie View. Those are the two. And, Commissioner McClellan, I believe he's a grad of Prairie View. And, we talked about Mississippi Valley State as far as like our recollection growing up and Jerry Rice. Well, my recollection of Prairie View was that they had an 80-game losing streak. They lost 80 games from 1991 to 1998. And so you think about the state of the Prairie View football program when you lost 80 games in a row and you're playing on a 5,500 seat stadium, Blackshear Field. You're not thinking that this is a prime location for great stadium and really good program. And in the last less than 10 years, they built this beautiful stadium holding 15,000, expandable to 30,000. But team success has followed them as well. They played in the SWAC championship in 2021 at Jackson State, and last year they played in the SWAC championship at Florida A&M. They didn't win either of them, but again, 2015, you got nothing as far as facilities, and fast forward, you build the stadium and look at the success. So it just kind of echoes what, not what we've talked about, but what you think is what you want to happen is if you're willing to invest, even in a program that lost 80 games in a row, you can come out the other side looking very good. And I went to a game in 2021 in the spring. In the fall. The crowd wasn't great for the game, but I came just blown away with the stadium. It's absolutely beautiful.
It really is, man. And I got a shout out. You mentioned I'm a Washington Redskins fan. Ken Houston, which was before my time, but my dad would remind me, 12-time NFL Pro Bowler, who played safety for the Oilers and the Redskins, Prairie View grad. I'd be curious to see if they have anything there to honor him, but man, yeah, I'm sure, I got to bring that up to my father. Great stadium though, man. Really, really like it. And, like to see that success happening too. it reminds me, I'm going to try to reach out again and get Bubba McDowell on the college football experience show. So, next up we jump to Southern AW Mumford Stadium, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 96 years old, seats 25,000. I feel like this is another one where it's like Grambling's brand. Southern's is also like, it's just the uniform colors will forever be etched in my brain. You know what I mean? Like more than a lot of schools, people probably, if you don't pay attention to the SWAC as much, it could be, or FCS as much. This is one that stands out to me. It just the history, and this shot is fantastic. What time of the day was this? Was this like 6 a.m.?
It was probably like 8:30 in the morning. So I forget. I was on a way. I might have been on the way to LSU or something, because LSU's in Baton Rouge too. But it was an early morning shot. I actually hopped the fence in the stadium to get in there, and just cool, foggy, football shot where your mind is going crazy thinking about what it would be like to watch a game at that particular moment.
And, with this stadium that old, when you think of, like I mentioned, Aeneas Williams at the beginning of this podcast, he played on this field. I love that about college football, the history. Harold Carmichael, the legendary Eagles wideout, if you go back far enough, they played on this field, man. Protect that at all costs. A lot of great players have played through here, and I dig it, man. Tell me about your travels here.
So one thing I want to say is when you research, when you research old stadiums, or FCS stadiums, that's when like the Wikipedia stuff starts not being as good. And I was bouncing an idea about writing a book about like 50 college football stadiums you must visit before you die. And I emailed the SID at Southern, and he clarified two things. He said it was built in 1938, not 1928. And he said it has 28,500 seats, not 25, which is, you wouldn't know, but I just know this specifically, that Wikipedia is wrong. So hopefully that can get corrected. But, in the spring 2021, I went to a few games we mentioned, and I met, I went to a Grambling game, and in the replies, you got to go to Southern, you got to go to the Bluff, you got to do this. And so I made a point, another solo Saturday, 2021, they played Prairie View at homecoming. And this shot right here is right when they're lining up from the opening kickoff. And you could see just about a full crowd, maybe a couple of people still filing in. But it's what you're talking about, in the similar vein as just the aura and the vibe that you get at Grambling, which is, you got the Human Jukebox Band, you got homecoming. So people are coming back to campus and to Baton Rouge in general. I was within a mile of the stadium, probably starting at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and the game wasn't until like 6 o'clock. So you got to see the whole tailgating. They got the basketball arena, which shares the same parking lot with the football stadium. It was just going on all day. You get offered a plate here, and you can meet this, this alumni and this donor group. So it was a whole experience. And, for all these photos that we have of me going to COVID games, this is one that I'm very proud of actually getting a chance to go to for Southern University homecoming game. It was very cool. Yeah. Mel Blount, another one that played here. I mean, like I said, they got so many great players that have played, in this. Well, and when you think of the away teams, because there's been so many great players in the SWAC, think about all the great players, if that field could talk, that have played on this field, phenomenal. And this shot's phenomenal too. Would love to get to a game here. Yeah. And one thing I wanted to kind of start doing on Twitter is like a profile of the people that stadiums are named after. Cause I don't think that people, understand. And there's a lot of them where this guy donated $5 million and he gets it, and that's the whole story. But a lot of them are after historic players, historic coaches. When we talked about Alcorn State Stadium, we talked about those Jack Spinks and Marina Casem. But A.W. Mumford, he's a famous coach that coached there down in the 30s through the 50s. He won 5 national championships as a football coach, and he won one national championship as a basketball coach. And he wasn't even a Southern grad. So, the stadium was originally called, I think, University Stadium, and they renamed it after Coach Mumford in 1982. That's when they did expansion there. So, we see the names on stadiums, and sometimes we don't really give it a second thought. It's pretty cool that a guy who had such impact early on and at Southern University got the stadium named after him.
Well, yeah, 100% there. I think it's fantastic, folks. Look, before we get to our next one, I want to tell you that the SWAC Stadium Heads episode, part 2, is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog Fantasy just launched their Underdog Streaks. If you hit your first 2 pick'em entries, then you can go streaking. Yes. Look, if you get an 11-0 run, you can win 1,000 times the amount of money you entered. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. They got college football, best ball, folks. Holy shit. So what do you do? It's sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $25. Up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by OddsJam. OddsJam is your one-stop shop for beating the sports books. OddsJam uses millions of data points across every U.S. and Canadian sports book to show you the best value plays for your money. Their line shopping tool shows the best price for any bet you want across countless sports books, not just the big ones like FanDuel and DraftKings. Yes, they have those, but also Bet Online, Bovada, Cut, and so many others. Their arbitrage tool will find opportunities where you can bet both sides of the same prop on different sports books to guarantee a positive return on your investment. So look, if you're interested in trying out OddsJam, you can get a free 7-day trial by going to oddsjam.com, promo code SGPN. But don't forget to enter that promo code SGPN, because not only will it give you those 7 days, it's also going to give you 35% off your first month of your subscription over at OddsJam. All right. Let's go. Shout out to LFG. He knows his football. He's loving the fact that Harold Carmichael and Mel Blunt and Aeneas Williams and so many other ones, man, do a deep dive on the great players that have came out of these universities. Just countless greats. These shots are phenomenal. I'd love to get there for a game. Just fire. Next we go to Texas Southern, who I'm very intrigued about moving forward because they hired Chris Dishman, former Houston Oiler star defensive back, played in college at Purdue with Rod Woodson. And Dishman was a DC in the USFL not that long ago, and I thought he had one of the better defenses. Obviously, it's a guy that played under Buddy Ryan and a lot of other great Greg Williams and stuff, a lot of other great NFL or football defensive coordinator. So I'm intrigued. Texas Southern, Shell Energy Stadium. This is, does a soccer team play here?
Yeah,
the soccer team plays here, right?
There's a soccer. It was built as a soccer stadium. Houston Dynamo play there.
Yeah, it's 8 years old. Seats 22,039. Look, they have a rich history at Texas Southern. Just not at this stadium, so to speak. But look, this is what I think Temple should do. In the FBS, Temple's playing at the Link, which is just a ridiculous stadium because they don't have that many fans for it. Their enrollment's like 2,000 people. Find something smaller like this. I know it's different than what we traditionally like as far as college football stadiums that look classic and stuff, but this is still cool and unique in its own right. You got the city back there behind you. Tell me about your travels to see Texas Southern.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to just backtrack 1 second. Isn't it kind of crazy that 2 of the coaches in the SWAC played in Houston Oilers secondary in the late 80s, early 90s on teams that we absolutely loved back in the day? What's his name for Alabama State? Eddie Robinson, right? There you go. Wow.
He played on the Oilers too as a linebacker. So you have 3 former Houston Oilers. Shit, when's Aldel Greco coming?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's hiring Kevin Gilbride, probably. So I have, well, first of all, Houston or Texas Southern had played at several different venues, none of them on campus. And they made this agreement when, Houston was building the stadium. First of all, this stadium is the first, what I saw, it was the first soccer specific stadium built in a major metropolitan city when it did in 2012. And we've seen several that have happened since then, but this was a big deal. And I think that, getting some other co-tenants, I believe there's a women's soccer team that plays there. I think it's the Dash. They also play. So it's a big step up, and it's a sure home for Texas Southern for, the immediate future. You mentioned it holds 22,000. So it's not one of these giant link stadiums with 70,000 or places that you will never have any hope filling. So last year, this was a little bit of a gift for me from a travel perspective, where the Houston Dynamo were potentially going to be hosting a playoff game if they had won an upcoming game. And that was a game that Texas Southern was supposed to play on a Saturday. That would have been the same day as the soccer playoff game. So as a precaution, they moved the Texas Southern Alcorn State game to a Sunday, and it was at noon. And so that week I did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 on Saturday, and a Sunday. It was, the peak traveling you can do. And so these photos are from that game. They played versus Alcorn State in October of last year.
Yeah, and look, the things you got to do. Obviously, we would like on-campus stadiums, but the things just to preserve and to me to have your football team going. And this is still a nice-looking stadium, man. So obviously, Michael Strahan played at Texas Southern. I know that's the one that jumps to my mind as far as most memorable. But once again, another one of the great players that played in the SWAC. Yeah, I dig this, man, and I'm so intrigued to see about this Dishman hire because I was and boom, we got a cannon.
We gotta show that, right? Yeah, I mean, if we don't like concession prices, fire that off.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued, man. I'm intrigued, and I'm curious to see what Dish can do there, because I do think he was impressive. I hosted the USFL show that we did, and UFL now, the UFL gambling podcast, but I was impressed. I thought he was very good at his job, and it'll be interesting to see if he can transition to the college game and be able to do this. So I like this stadium, man. And once again, Temple, if you're listening to this, all right, Temple, get on out there. You can do this. I would also the UFL teams. They're trying to play at Ford Field. That thing's they're packing like 300 people at Ford Field. That thing is ginormous. All right. It looks like one of my comedy shows, it's like, what, you get 350 people? Like, smaller is better until you build it to that. You know what I mean? Like, I really can't hit that hard enough there. Like, if you have a small intimate crowd, like if Temple were to do this, you can build that, and it's almost like a nightclub. Like I live here in Los Angeles, and you're driving past a club, and like, if you build it, it will come in a way. Like they always have that big line, and you go inside and no one's in there. Right. So you gotta, it's a good start. I'll put it like that. Like, this is a good transition, I think, for eventually getting themselves a stadium on campus. And I dig the look of it. And I think more teams should do this.
Yeah. And the fans that went to this game, Alcorn was favored by a lot, and Texas Southern just blitzed them. It was the best performance they had all year. They put up something like 45 points in the game, and it was a big upset. So, the fans that came, they got some entertaining football. So, but yeah, I agree with you. We know how hard it is in big cities to try to make big jumps. I tweeted about Pitt Stadium, and that's gone, and now they can't go back. So this is a school making strides, and it's a perfect one to contrast with what we just talked about, Prairie View. I mean, Prairie View down in the dumps, 80 games in a row, playing in a 5,500 seat stadium, and within 10 years playing in the SWAC championship multiple times, and has one of the nice facilities on campus in the SWAC. So it's possible, But in the meantime, they're going to try to maximize their time here at Shell Energy Stadium as much as possible.
There we go. Shout out to Regal in the chat who's saying, come to the Alcorn State Jackson State game this year. Is that the one you're going to?
So I haven't announced any games yet, but I know that game is on November 23rd. And it's funny. I sent you a screenshot about how I visit like Southern Utah. It says their schedule. It says you visit often because I'm looking for the kick times. Same thing with Alcorn State. So I want to say it's a 3 p.m. start. I'm not sure, but I believe that it's November 23rd. So right now in the schedule that I haven't released, only Saturdays that are picked out are the first couple because I know all the kick times, but it's absolutely on the table as a possibility later in the season. I just have to see how the schedule unfolds. As I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I'm going to Alabama A&M for the November 14th game. I'm pretty sure I'm going to the Turkey Day Classic on Thanksgiving. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to go to Jackson State. And I would love to, I want to check off this list, Alcorn and Mississippi Valley, and do the whole SWAC and have that accomplishment. So very much looking for that opportunity. And the Jackson State one probably going to be the biggest crowd they get on campus at Alcorn for the whole year.
Hell yeah. And make sure you give Michael a follow. Like, look, I love hyping our pod. We want everyone to follow our pod, but I really encourage you. That's how me and Michael became friends. Essentially, I was like, who the hell is this guy who's traveling around the whole country, going to all these great stadiums and documenting all of it? He's on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. It's well worth the follow. Even in the off season, it's a lot of great, historical stuff. I'll show you the development of the teams and the university. Just like you just mentioned with Prairie View, it's a must follow to me. If you're on Twitter or X, or if you're looking for a reason to get on Twitter or X, I'm going to say that right there at CFB Campus Tour. Give Michael a follow. I want to talk more about this, but I do also want to tell you folks out there that the Stadium Head SWAC edition is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're not checking out the AI picks and props from Rhythm, well, then you're missing out. They just predicted a bunch of winners for the British Open, and their football models are about to drop. You can even customize your own betting models easily using Rhythm's tools. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret you'll feel if you win your office pool, but you didn't enter the Circa Survivor, which would make you a millionaire. If you don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season, may I recommend Ultimate Contest Weekend. It's a great time to go out. You can hang with Stacking the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. Also, if you want to stay there, use the promo code SGP15 to save you 15% off your hotel room for that sign-up weekend. But you want to sign up in person at Circa between now and September 7th because the season kicks on 7th. And you can use a proxy to play from anywhere. It's not like you got to go to Vegas every weekend. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So hop on over there and use that. All right, we're back on the Stadium Heads podcast, and the SWAC edition was phenomenal. Now we're at the point though. We're at the end of the run here. Anything else before we drop the top five here? Let me ask you this. What was the biggest surprise that you've been, I know you've been to all the stadiums, but you haven't been to all the games, but what was the biggest surprise to you coming in out of the blue, never having attended some of these stadiums? What was the biggest one that just jumped off your mind?
I would say that I mentioned Alabama State, that I didn't even know about it. I was going somewhere else. I saw it off the freeway and I was like, holy shit, this is an awesome stadium. So that, just from the stadium perspective, I would say that one. And then walking in Prairie View for the first time, based on my knowledge of the program, I didn't expect anything that nice. And then, getting a chance to go down to Florida A&M in 2022 when they played Southern. The crowd and the vibe was incredible. Same thing with that Southern homecoming game. We always would love, and I've said this before, in a perfect world, you can go to everybody's homecoming and see that environment in the peak conditions and be able to do that. But you just can't, because there's 232 Division I football programs, and there's 13 or 14 Saturdays per week. So sometimes you're not going to be able to get it. But I would say that in my experience, the quality of Alabama State, ASU Stadium, and Panther Stadium at Prairie View, and then not a surprise to anybody that's from Southern or from Florida A&M, but traveling to a lot of other FCS schools and seeing maybe the crowd environment there and contrasting it with what they have in Florida A&M and Tallahassee and down there in Baton Rouge and Southern. I mean, those experiences are some that I'm going to, cherish for a long time.
Love it. So we do the top 5, if in case you're new to the show. This is Michael's top 5 in no order. In Veteran Stadium, which is Jackson State, ASU Stadium, which is Alabama State, Eddie Robinson Stadium there, Grambling, Panther Stadium, which is Prairie View, and Bragg Memorial, which is Florida A&M. You know what's crazy, dude? You sent me this list. I'm building this list, but I had made my list prior to you sending me this, and we actually, for the first time, I believe, we had the same top 5. Now, different. I ranked mine, and my hardest one was I almost had Southern in there. Southern was the one to me of like, it hurt me to cut it off. But the Vet is my number 1. I look at that stadium and I say, why the hell are we not, hey, well, I feel like the national championship should be played there. You know what I mean? Like, play the Celebration Bowl there. It's just such a great stadium, man. 2, Eddie Robinson. I'm a sucker for history, if you can't already tell by my references to Harold Carmichael and other greats. Eddie Robinson is the epitome of what is great about college football. And to me, the fact they honor him, the fact that stadium, the history, the players that have been through there, and the legacy that he built, to me, that's my number 2. 3 was Alabama State, and that one was strictly on your photos. Like, I had this one further back at 5 based on just a Google image, right? But when your photos came along, I actually moved it up to 3 because I was like, damn, this is a beautiful stadium. 4 was Bragg, which once I did the Google images, I was sold, and obviously love the uniforms and everything that they got there. At 5, another one once again was, I had originally had Southern slated at 5, and the Google imaging and then your photos took Panther Stadium to 5. But Southern is right there for me. It's a very underrated conference when it comes to great stadiums, in my opinion.
Yeah, when we did the FCS Invitational on Twitter, me and Sam Herder and FCS Nation Radio and Blue Bloods and Reddit, we picked 48. And I want to say out of those 48, there were 8 or 9 SWAC stadiums. You mentioned that Southern was just on the outside. Southern for me was just on the outside. I looked at the overhead of UAPB, Pine Bluff, Simmons Bank Field. That stadium looks great, built in 2000. We started off the show with Lewis Crew Stadium at AAMU. You talked about the press box there. Alcorn State, that field looks really nice as well. So it's kind of, we said this before that you could add a couple. I do think we picked some of the best ones, and it's a variety because we're not just stuck on, okay, we're only picking the historic ones or we're only picking the nice one. It's a nice blend. And, we started off our first FCS podcast last week with the Big Sky, and there's some major home run hitters there with Montana and Montana State and all that. But depth wise, I mean, the SWAC probably has the best depth when it comes to FCS stadiums in the country. And, the Ivy Leagues have the classic ones, and we love those, but there's only 8 teams in the Ivy League. There's 12 teams in the SWAC. So, Big Sky, SWAC, some people will say Missouri Valley, some people will say the CAA, but I really think that Big Sky and SWAC are the heavy hitters, and the depth in the SWAC is probably the best out of any FCS conference.
Yeah. I mean, I was taken back by the photos you sent me, and then I knew some of the ones were classic, but yeah, doing Google imaging on all those, fantastic stuff. Folks, that's our show. For the next episode, Michael, we have I guess, not to hot potato you this, but I was thinking Ivy. Are you good with the Ivy League next week?
Absolutely. The Ivy Yale Bowl inspired a ton of stadiums. We were talking about that before. Harvard, the configuration of that stadium actually changed college football. There's Penn Franklin Field is the oldest D1 stadium, built in 1895. So there's only 8 stadiums there, but I think we could do a deep dive on all 8 of them. So I'm on board with that.
Hell yeah. I'm a big fan of those stadiums too. And I think, tune in, you might learn something, folks. Until next week, this is it. Make sure you give Michael a follow on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. It's a must follow. All right. He is a must follow, I should say. And shout out to LFG, who says, I just hit that notification bell. There we go. And Robert Martin said, where do I send the check, Dundee? Let's go. Yeah, we're building this thing, man. We love college football. We're passionate about college football, the history of the game. And please, if you can, spread the word. If you can get over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, stuff like that. Sponsors look at stuff like that. But yeah, I'm on Twitter at @TheColbyD. I also host the College Football Experience. We're breaking down all 134 FBS teams, but I also have the FCS College Football Experience. So SWAC fans, stay tuned. Yeah, College Basketball Experience, College Baseball Experience, the Sports Gambling Podcast. You feature me on all those shows, so check out all those. And please hop over to the SGPN merch store. We do have Stadium Heads gear. You can get a shirt, a hat, all this good stuff. Look at that right there. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeads SGPN. Look at that shit right there. He's got all of it right there. Load up. We are grateful. And yeah, really grateful that college football is also, as much as we love doing all these previews, and we every time we meet up on here, we're just like, God, I can't wait to the season. We love doing this, but we just can't wait for the season. So make sure you check out all of our preseason content, and when the season comes, I'm sure you're going to be blown away by Michael's travel schedule and all that good stuff. As the guy, I don't want to. You're just gonna have to see, because it's hilarious. You're gonna see, he might be trapped in and calling that school principal again. You never know where it'll go, but that's why he's such a great follow at CFB Campus Tour, and why you should listen to the Stadium Heads podcast, folks. Until next time, this is the Stadium Heads podcast. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.